Hi everyone, it's Liz James, Elysia Neon. I have been given a download to talk a little bit about something that we're, in the spiritual community, it's very prevalent at the moment. It's talking about, sacrifice, people making, dark practitioners or people with entity attachments making sacrifice. And Spirit's reminding us that what one calls sacrifice, another calls offering. Okay, so when we work in the light, we are actually making offerings, and sacrifices are different in two very distinct ways. Because a sacrifice is seen in the negative aspects as if something to lose, something to destroy, and an offering is something that can be recreated, or that has no loss attached to it. There's no fear of loss attached to it. So they're on two very different vibrational energy levels. An offering is something that we can give freely, and we usually do that in through, if you go through like the history of religion, of the spiritual practices, it's something that is renewable, something from within. So an offering is maybe, let's talk about the Fae, for example. In the Irish culture, you give offerings to the Fae, which is usually like honey, some tulsi flowers, or some sweet treat, some baked goods, something like that that has already been produced by hand by the person making the offering. We offer song in hymn, in prayer, at church, in religious institutes, chants. The sacred, in various cultures, you have chanting, the ringing of bells, smoke, burning, cleansing. In native indigenous tribes and cultures, they have offerings of smoke, offerings of meat. And whereas if we look at another word that's often been mistaken, I think, in biblical texts, in religious texts. Sorry, my beads just broke. I think those are done. They call it, they translate it as sacrifice. So sacrificing a goat, sacrificing bulls, sacrificing fish, blood, but whatever, because that's a symbol of a loss of a life. But that's the difference, you see. So the whole barbaric side of it, in terms of sacrifice, it's a mentality first and foremost. That's the vibration. When you think it's a sacrifice, it's a waste of something, right? It's something that can't be renewed. It can't be regenerated. Whereas an offering is something that can. So it's about mentality. Let's say that these sacrificial goats, for example, I'm just giving this example because it's what's in my head. Or the Lamb of God. So there was the sacrificial lamb, right? So in some instances, it's said that they would take and offer the lamb and slaughter it at the temples and things like that. But what about if it was like a portion, of a meal that was already cooked? So that's an offering then, because it's sharing of the resources. Do you know what I'm saying? Anyway, so that's what it is. So the reminder is from Spirit that while we're talking about all this, while we're becoming more aware of the use of sacrifice, these entities and rituals and energy siphoning, things like this, it's stop looking at it from the perspective of sacrifice and start looking at it from your perspective of offering. That it was something that if you've been offering your energy, rather than thinking that it was sacrifice, once you become aware of it, it's no longer a sacrifice. You are consciously aware of it, and it becomes then something that you offered, albeit unknowingly, in the past, and then you can then reclaim that, and then it comes down to you being able to re-choose and redirect and reclaim that energy. I'm talking very much about energy siphoning specifically here, but in anything else, so if any work that we do, any energy work that we're doing, it requires balance, and that's where the whole idea of the sacrifice came from. But it's not, doesn't have to be sacrifice. The correct way to use it is through offering, giving back, or being consciously aware of the exchange of that energy, because it's a balancing act. That's what it is. It doesn't have to be all guts and gore. It can be something beautiful, something as simple as a song. All right, as simple as gratitude. Peace, love, and light.